Basically, the beef had started with this cat named Fig Newton. I was going through videos, looking through the blood videos, because there's a lot of bloods that I got a lot of respect for, like the Bounty Hunters, Flip Side, J-Rock, Cavanaugh Park, West Side Pyrus, Brams, pretty much almost every blood set I got love for it and a lot of respect. So, just because I grew up hanging out when I was younger in high school, a lot of people, who knew me, I hung out with the gangsters, and, at first I went to a college preparatory school, and then I went to, public school in a small town in California, and, 408, and so just being around, a lot of these cats who had got kicked out of other schools, and they taught me a lot about the game, and I learned a lot about who the key players are, and all the different sets and why there's beef and stuff like that. So, I have a lot of respect for the Bloods, coming from the street perspective, and from the perspective of a scholar and a revolutionary. But this cat named Fig Newton, going back to that, this motherfucker, running his mouth like it's all good, like I'm a real motherfucker, I will catch a fade, saying period. And so when I feel disrespected, and I feel like my people were disrespected, I'm gonna address it, because that's the kind of guy that I am. I was never the best with the ladies. I was never the biggest money maker. I was always a humble guy, humble dressed guy. One thing people knew me as is a writer. So coming from that level, see myself as a lawyer and as a gangster all my life, until I kind of transformed. Not long before Snoop, transformed into Snoop Lion. I kind of felt that was a kind of interesting coincidence, because I had transformed, into something similar, a more peaceful guy, trying to make peace. When my first approach to, conspiracies and stuff was to awaken people and to challenge them on a military level, get people thinking about things like chemistry and insurgencies and guerrilla warfare. So, I really felt disrespect by this cat, because I'm a warlike person, and he had insulted my tribe, which goes back to like 3000 BC. Basically around the time when the ancient Egyptian Empire started. The Igbo Ukwu Empire was there, over there, West Central and West Africa, and so. All right, let me address this next question. Go ahead. Oh, it was when he said, "Quit hating like an Evo" in the song "You Fig Me." I felt like, okay, if you're gonna talk about something else, that's one thing, but you're gonna say quit hating like an Evo, and there's a lot of us. It's not like we're a small tribe. We're one of the biggest tribes in Africa, one of the three main tribes in Nigeria. There's millions of us, millions, tens of millions, all over the world, and so I felt like, are you serious? So I had to address it, even though I'm not an Igbo, I'm not born in Nigeria, but I descend from one, and I took it personally. Basically, the Illuminati, and psychiatry and history and sociology and geography and the migrations of people and anthropology. I touch on it a little tiny bit, not really, because I'm not really that deep into it, but mostly psychiatry, psychology, those kind of things I want to talk about in my videos, especially secret societies, pharmaceutical companies, um, mind control, and not the made up stuff, but the real on record stuff that they've released, Freedom of Information Act type of stuff. It's come out there. So that's the type of stuff that I talk about. I'm not necessarily a gangster rapper. I'm more of an MC that touches on gangster stuff, you know, that's been exposed to that, you know. I didn't really grow up in a poor home. I grew up in a nice home where, you know, my family was controlling and they cared about me. And, you know, they really put me through a lot of stress, sent me to reform school, and, you know, I was really exposed. I wasn't your normal kind of rich kid. I was more like messing with the streets, and that's how people knew me, you know. So that's where I'm coming at with hip hop on that level, is that, you know, I'm actually from that, you know. I'm from a nice home, but at the same time I'm from the streets, because that's all I grew up with, you know. It was like always going around, and before I was driving around, I think I wasn't driving until I was like 18. So all from being about 13 to 18, just wandering the streets of San Jose and meeting people at the different parks and stuff. And that's really how I met a lot of, you know, it was between that and summer school when I was 13 that I met a lot of gangsters, and it started pushing me down to that path where I felt more comfortable with them than anyone else. You know, because everyone has their little groups in high school. And so, you know, being a black person and going to a small town, there wasn't that many of us, and most of them happened to be Crips, and that's pretty much how I attached myself to the Crips. But I also, you know, before that, prior to that happening, I'd seen the movie Colors like a lot of people had, and I liked Snoop Dogg in junior high, and so before I was really 15, it was really 13 was where I was really getting into it. 15 was really, you know, when I started doing that. And when a Mexican girl broke my heart, and I realized there was a lot of racist Mexican gangs that didn't like blacks in jail, you know, like the Mexican Mafia, for instance. You know, I mean, a lot of the country, but basically one main one in California, the Mexican Mafia. And, so I took it as, okay, you don't like me, you know, for my race, and that is why you don't want to associate with me, because I'm the guy who associates with the thug, black guys, you know what I'm saying, and you're the nice lady, you know what I'm saying, that he's like the class president, you know, the school president or something. So there was a lot of, you know, miserable time in my life. Most of my life was sad and angry, and that's when I started studying the Illuminati and really asking myself, why did this happen to me? You know, looking at sociology and the depression that followed, you know, the natural kind of depression that followed. My parents felt the need to kind of try to jug me up. So that's what happened. You know. I'm a real guy, scuffle in the streets, you know. You look at me on my knuckles, a little bit pushed back, and you know, just being in the streets and all the stuff that's done happened to me. I've been stabbed, and you know, look, I'm not your typical, you know, guy. I've been in jail and reform schools, and I've been in riots and race riots and, you know, riots with the homies, and you know, stuff I can't really get into, you know, and can't really touch on. I can't really touch on that, but so really that, you know, answers your question about, you know, where I'm coming from and what I'm studying and whatnot. All right, so one last question. Well, there's a lot of videos, you know, I come off very angry because I feel like I understand who the Illuminati is, to answer your question. The Illuminati is a cult, secret societies. A lot of them happen to be Jewish. A lot of them are Catholic. Some of them are, you know, Satanists, atheists, and that's on the top level. You know, they're all men on the top level. And there's people like, you know, Queen Elizabeth, who's the Grand Patroness. You know, there's different ways that feminists and women connect to it too. You know, so a lot of people say it's the Jews, it's the church, but those are just tools they're used. Zionism is just another school of thought they created to control. Their school of thought is the ancient mystery, just like in the Bible. It said, beware of the wolves of sheep's clothes. It said the ancient mystery, Babylonian religion, you know, the whore, the rise of the beast, etc. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the Babylonian mystery schools that was given to them by Egypt. You know, people like Queen Semiramis, you know, see the similarity to Ramses, and you look at when she lived. You know, there's different accounts. One of them is around 700 BCE. And that's way after the Egyptians. The Babylonians came after the Egyptians, and the Egyptians had the pre-dynastic connection. The Babylonians and the Sumerian connection is a lot more vague. Sumerians were culture. Egypt was an empire. Babylon was an empire. When I talk about empires, the first empires were black empires. Nubians, Ibo Uku, you know, the Mali Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Ethiopian Empire, etc. And then you had the other empires, you know, in Indus Valley, the Harappan, you know, the Persians. Most of these were dark-skinned peoples. Some of them had Aryans as their kings. But I'm going to end it there because I already went over. Thank you.